Rasputin, is that you? I need...
I'm coming, Sasha!
Welcome to the second half of the tutorial in Psychonauts 2. The bad half. This is where the tutorial gets to be just plain old too long. The problem is they want to give you all the powers that you ended the previous game with, which means you've got to go through all of the previous game's training sessions back to back. To make matters worse, there are a large number of side objects which can draw your attention, like say this, and they don't clearly say whether or not you can get through yet. You can't. This is in fact a poster that is invulnerable to everything but fire, but if you're like me, you probably spent 5 or 10 minutes trying to figure out some way to get through. After all, these posters can be smashed with chairs. Why can't that one? Obviously, the game does allow you to come back and collect collectibles later, but at this stage you're not used to it yet, and this is not something that is clearly not gettable, which is, because this is an early stage. Later on, they're very carefree with giving you things that you clearly cannot solve yet because you clearly do not have the right powers. But this is before they got purchased by Microsoft, as far as I know. So I'm not sure they even had the other powers planned in this version of the game. I'm saying, obviously, this is all the same version. It's the release version. But it's very clear that the tutorial sequence was worked on earlier than much of the later parts of the game where things get interesting. We'll talk more about that later. Anyway, we got to go through the bullet part.
Thank you, Rasputin. Please, let's get clear of this aggressive uvula.
So now we go through Sasha's bullet training, but of course a much compressed version.
He couldn't be doing this on his own. He must be getting help from someone.
The devs clearly knew that this was going on a little bit too long, so they started to try and make it more fun. But unfortunately, it didn't really work out. All of the fun elements are really forced and aggressive. We'll see that very shortly here.
Sasha!
I've got the situation under control. Just find us a way out of here, quickly.
Yeah, don't bother
These.
with them little mooks. You want to go for
These are really forced. They're not funny. They'd have no point. They don't make any sense or cohere very well to the nature of the bind we're in. They're just here to give us a target to shoot at.
Got me too, Frankie. The mooks.
Now you might think, oh, they're not that annoying, but that's not the point. The point is that they exist. This is already way too long. It does not need to be extended longer with wisecracking wisdom teeth. I do like this, though. Wow.
Did you even brush before you came in here today? Honestly, it's a mess in there. Here, rinse and spit. Get out everything that doesn't belong.
Oh no! Not back in the trap!
Trap?
Sasha 9's performance in this room is spectacular.
Where'd he go?
Oh, well, that's a good sign.
What is it?
That.
The new enemy types are great.
Lobato has regrets, then maybe there's a way we can still get to him. Let's get out of here and find Lobato.
Watch this next line. No, Sasha's.
Sasha? Are regrets dangerous?
Oh yes, extremely. Take care of that one, will you, while I find an exit.
So they're teaching you how to use the gun and how to use the lock-on. The lock-on is really pretty optional. It's useful against big enemies, but you don't actually fight any big enemies until a much later time. So it's not that big a deal.
No.
Good job, Rasputin. Unfortunately.
Once again, we're going to see some flab here. This golden door doesn't actually cohere.
Golden what?
There's no reason for it to be gold. It doesn't show up anywhere else. And these teeth still don't add anything. But the good news is Sasha's delivery is quite good in this next bit.
See ya, Ma.
Rasputin, you see what you can find through that door. I'm going to stay here and attempt to repair my construct.
So let's move on to the next part of the mission. Here is where they start to show off some of their gravity techniques. I love these gravity techniques. I honestly wish they'd use them way more.
Lily, I'm coming! Uh-oh,
And of course we got a sliding part. These sliding parts are my bane. I just don't like them. They're not bad, but they're just not for me. Once again, we're reminded that Raz has a water curse.
Still got that water phobia, huh?
It's not a phobia, it's a curse.
But they treat it lightly, and Lily is reestablished.
Lily was cursed to die in water, and...
Yeah, super sad. Look at these posters! I think someone else planted these in Lobato's mind to intimidate him.
And make sure he didn't tell us who hired him to kidnap your dad.
Let's get rid of them. Maybe it'll help. Help me burn these posters, Raz.
So we've now learned pyrokinesis, and if you're like me, you think that when she says, "Help me burn these posters," she means all the posters. And you spend 10 minutes trying to burn all the posters. She doesn't. She means this poster.
Ooh, looks like you found an even bigger room.
I'm gonna catch up to Lobato.
Okay, I'll catch up after I make sure these posters are all burned.
See? She's like, burn all the posters. It's really important. Let's have some fun. Oop.
Ah, fire! It hurts! Help me!
Obviously, she's not actually hurt. So this is the room where you're, seeing that there are lots of posters. They're teaching you what these platforms do. This one is solid, this one is not.
Am I right?
But of course, you're supposed to come through and find your way through into here. There's really nothing back here as far as I know. It's just a room to teach you to keep your eye open. So these posters of Lobato, we can burn them too. In fact, we've got to burn several of them on the way through. And you can see why trying to burn all the posters in this room would easily take like 10 minutes. And it's something where if you come back later with your super upgraded version of the fire, it's not a big deal. But trying to do it now wastes a tremendous amount of time in a tutorial that is already way too long.
Who are you protecting?
Myself.
We're not doing any of the collectibles at the moment, but that's okay.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry I did it. I'd take it back if I could. Was that you screaming? Or me? Doesn't matter. Listen, we all have our doubts and regrets.
Here's a multi-layered line for you.
Back now, understand? What we have to do now is finish the extraction.
Yep. So if you already know the plot of the game, you know that that is a multi-layered line. Pretty good stuff.
Lily, I think Lobato is starting to have doubts.
Duh, they're right over there.
Now they're going to teach us how to use the fire in a combat situation. This is a very classic approach. First you use it in a safe situation, then you use it in combat.
Flammable. You take care of them while I find a way out, okay?
And once again, they're trying to add levity with their cutscenes and stuff. And it works, but it's just, there's a lot. I believe this is actually the same room that that we were in earlier, with the same like pickups and stuff. I think it's just getting taken over more and more by the mind of Dr. Lobato. So doubts are one of those. I really enjoy the differences in these enemies. I think that some people probably don't like the doubts, but it's an interesting idea, and I think it works well enough.
Think we should burn it?
Oh, you haven't changed, have you?
Come on, just
Now they have this long conversation in the background while you go around and search this room, and I really enjoy it. I think that that's great.
believe it is.
Obviously, the game doesn't proceed until you burn him. So let's burn him.
Oh, no, you don't.
I think I just did.
Mia?
Yes, darling?
Nothing.
They're going to teach us another one of the powers that we left behind in the first game?
Meditation, Rasputin?
No. Your thoughts can lift you up if you focus.
Better hurry before we hit the ground.
There you go. Woo-hoo. Now let's get out of here. Loboto needs our help.
Yeah, sure. This is another room that has some very easy distractions, some things you can waste a tremendous amount of time trying to reach. You can see them over there.
Let's find him and help him.
Now we are getting a lot of good Mia character building, and that's useful because Mia is not actually interfering with our ability to play the game. Our bad depth perception is. She's just talking in the background, but her delivery is compelling enough that it really helps to sell her character. She's concerned with Lobato's health and safety, and, you know, his regrets. Anyway, as I was saying, those are something you can't use for a long time, but the game lets you try and figure it out, which normally I wouldn't be against, but in this case, there is so much time spent in this tutorial. You can punch them to death and stuff, but the fire is, well... Sirens are non-diegetic. Those are in my world. Oh, I missed. Did I just light myself on fire? I actually didn't realize I could do that. Anyway, we gotta go over there now. Oh, I pressed the wrong button. There are some fun extractions you can do here. You can pull some teeth out. There's not really any reason to. All they do is give you something to throw at the enemy, but they take so long to pull out of the ground. I can't imagine actually using them in combat. Either way. There we go.
Over here.
Now we're going to learn the other half. We're going through the same training courses taught by the same characters as in the first game, just very compressed.
Mia, the mission is falling apart. We've lost control of Lobato.
There's a little chaos on every mission, Raz. A Psychonaut must always remember how to roll with it. You remember how to gather your thoughts and roll with them, right?
So this part is quite challenging if you're trying to collect everything as you move through it. It's not challenging at all if you're not. There's a lot of cases in this game where it looks like you might be able to go off to the side or jump over to another area, and it turns out you can't. They're not very good at telling you when something is, you know, the landmarking is a little bit weak from time to time.
Where are you?
We'll talk more about that later, but know that the first time I went through, that was like a good 15 minutes of me trying to get to certain places that,
Sasha?
in hindsight, I literally couldn't get to. They just didn't exist.
Oh no. I think I'm the last one still in here.
What was I supposed to do again?
Now, a lot of the things that people say are really evocative and make a lot of sense, you know, in hindsight, like talking about extractions and stuff. But this whole thing where they talk about putting an egg in the ocean and stuff, that feels kind of forced to me. It's just something to talk about while we're fighting, and it doesn't actually add as much as I'd like. I'm just complaining because I guess I gotta talk about something. It does make for a reasonable, you know, he's obviously, his mind is not working in full, and obviously Sasha 9's construct was not the first construct at play here, and at least it does define that pretty clearly. This is the end of the tutorial. Once we see this, we're going to stop and watch the 15-minute long exposition cutscene in its own episode.
I put the egg in the box, and the box in the basket, and the basket in the ocean. No, that's not it.
Now, there are a lot of holes in this plot, which I guess we can mention, but the point is that you're so involved in these scenes as they're unfolding because they're so evocative and interesting that you don't notice the holes. For example, there's no possible way that Lobato ever actually saw her. I mean, presumably it's a fake created by the other villain, but the whole point here is to establish that there are two villains in this game. That one, and whoever is controlling her. And that is the end of the tutorial. Now, into a never-ending cutscene, which we'll talk about next time.